And we're back on Build Phase TV. I'm your host, Mr. Ben, and on today's episode, I am going to kind of take him by surprise here late in the day, tackle the first card reveals for Spiderverse. Honestly, I'm a little surprised we got these card reveals today. At the time we got them, just not very long ago at all. I was in the middle of cooking dinner and I'm like, okay, new cards, let's go talk about them. Haven't done a live reveal for a while, so I threw together a little bit of a weird overlay and we're going to dive right into these cards. So this is the third expansion from what is this arc called? I bet it tells me right here. The Symbiotes arc. So this is the third expansion for the Symbiotes arc. The first one was Lethal Protector. The second one was Maximum Carnage. This last one is called Spiderverse. So I'm expecting we're going to see a little more Spider Friends in here than we have in some of the previous ones where it was a little bit more symbiote heavy, but we will see. Initially, they start off here saying all the stuff that I just said. They remind us again about how AKA works, which I still haven't seen a card where I'm like deeply confused about AKA. So I'm a little surprised they felt the need to flag this on every single reveal article for this arc. But maybe that's my bias. You know, maybe new players needed that additional assistance in wrapping their heads around AKA, whereas I've been kind of dealing with it for a long time. Now that's taken care of, So there's going to be card slots in this expansion that are devoted to story mode. So initially, I kind of like that. I would kind of prefer to see story mode instead of being all clumped together in the crossover box. I kind of like the idea of putting story mode cards inside the arcs. Like, what if we had a Civil War battle inside one of the card slots in the Civil War arc? And now not only do we have all the Civil War cards, we have all the characters, we have all the big players in the story. We also have a story for it. I am also immediately sympathetic to people who go, Symbiotes is a new team. This is a slot that's being taken away from supporting that new team, which means they're going to be hobbled. Yes, I think that's probably true. But I think this is a better way to handle story modes than, again, kind of clumping generic, boring. I shouldn't say boring. That's dismissive and unfair. I think taking generic stories that kind of don't really fit with any specific particular thing and throwing them into crossover at the end of the year, it was an interesting idea when they initially started it. Putting a story mode into an arc that's built around a story is a way cooler way to do that. So let's look at what the story actually is. A symbiote story. Story mode. Mysterious aliens have come to Earth. Set one copy of the Venom symbiote and the Carnage symbiote equipment cards aside. I kind of already like where this is going. This story, these cards can't be in your deck, and your main character can't have symbiosis. Okay? Part 1. Landing party, player A. If player A wins, I can't stop it from bonding. Secretly choose a supporting character without symbiosis in your deck as a host. When the host appears for the first time in Part 2 and Part 3, equip Venom to it. I do kind of like this. This is certainly already the most intricate story we've seen. I don't think we've seen any stories in the original wave of them that flagged specific cards as being part of like props for that story where they had to be set aside. I think this is a unique feature here. Cool. I'm with it. If player B wins, now I will have my revenge, same as above. So regardless, somebody gets to become Venom. My guess is after scenario 2, somebody's going to get to become Carnage, but we'll see. The plot thickens. If player A wins, this one's even worse. Now your main character starts Part 3 with the Carnage symbiote equipped to it. Or this one's even better. If player B wins, they get Carnage. Part 3 is minimum or maximum Carnage. If player A wins, so if player A wins, what's next? And if player B wins, congratulations. Kind of built up to a dramatic ending that popped like a wet firecracker a little bit. Overall, I really like this story. I like the idea of story mode. I've been kind of critical of story mode taking slots away from actual cards when this could just be like a PDF. This could be a website. That being said, putting a symbiote story into the symbiote arc feels cool. This is the kind of thing that even if it doesn't ultimately end up panning out. It doesn't end up feeling like a whole, like, complete story. I'm scrambling a little for the words I want here. Even if this ends up feeling like a slot was taken away that could have been a card, this is the kind of swing that I like when they take. I like when they try new things. I don't always think the new things are good, but I do like when they try new things. And I think saying we have a symbiote arc and we're going to put a story about symbiotes as one of the slots within that arc, that to me, I think that fits better. I think that flows better. I like that better than a clump of stories that kind of use generic characters that don't really have any specific cards called out. I think this is one of the better stories if the ending feels a little bit weak. Not that kind of story. Wait, how did you get in here? And what do you mean you can't stop them from bonding? Huh. Okay. Oh, well, now they're going to show us hosts. Okay, I get the word game they're playing here. So, Cletus Cassidy. This is oh, man, I love this art. Oh, dude. Yes. Yes. Okay, 4 costs, aka Carnage. Totally makes sense. One of a kind. Oh, jeez. Okay, so 4 costs, 5/3/1. Well, his stats don't justify being one of a kind. Favored Carnage symbiote host. At the start of your turn, you may bind the Carnage symbiote from your hand to Cletus. If you do, they become a level 1 Carnage main character with symbiosis. I'm going to assume they don't count as your main character. Oh my gosh. There's so many words here. Okay, before I get down to the words underneath it, I'm going to look at the Eddie Brock one. I'm going to assume this does the same thing. Eddie Brock, I'm not a big fan of this art. I get that he's in mid-transformation, but dude, he just looks like Alice Cooper. Like, is he mid-transformation into Venom, or is he going to bite the head off a bat here? This, not interested. I don't like this art. AKA Venom, again, one of a kind. 4 costs, 2/5. What was Carnage? He was a 5/3. Eddie's a 2/5. Come on, guys. Favored Venom symbiote. You can bind the Venom symbiote from your hand, and then he becomes Venom. This mechanic, so setting aside any like weirdness that might happen because the main characters are entering the game, just talking about this mechanic, you essentially get a very good 1 cost equipment for free, and it turns your character. Oh, I bet 2/5 is the stat line on the Venom main character, and that's why he's got those stats. That's a weird stat line for a 4-drop, but I suspect that's it. Man, so does this say, if you have a character with bind in your deck, you must start the game with the set aside binding pile. This is mandatory. You must include particular cards. So it's mandatory and it's fixed, I'm going to assume. And private. Okay. Well, they're using mandatory here with a capital M, like that's the keyword. But didn't they tell us that fixed versus variable was going to be the keyword that said you have to include specific cards? So that feels a little weird. And it's private, so opponents can't look at it. That's fine. The pile is made up of main characters mentioned on bind cards in your deck and any main characters. Oh, so if you have a main character that has the bind keyword, you also have to... those main characters can level up or down into these additional main characters level up and down as normal while on your side. Wow, this is... So you have whoever your main character is, you play Eddie Brock, you bind this, and now you have 2 MCs. Also, if that main character requires any piles of its own, you get to have those piles as well. Even though we just got a rules update that says if something starts in a side pile, you don't get to have any side pile that it would generate. Now you're immediately making an exception to it. Guys, come on. That's... I'm not a huge fan of the, hey, we're making a hard, fast rule to clarify how piles work, and now we're immediately going to print a card that breaks that rule. Like, okay, it is what it is. If only we had a hero. Oh, man. Oh, this is why heads were exploding. Okay, I get it now. There was some chat, in the Patreon Discord. If you like what we're doing here, you can support us at patreon.com/thebuildphase. And there was some chat about heads exploding, and I did not realize that was connected to these preview articles. Peter Parker. He is a 4/7, a 4/7/1. Again, one of a kind. So are all the bind guys one of a kind, I guess? And this guy can bind to the Venom symbiote, which is appropriate, and then he becomes a Spider-Friend, Spider-Man level 1 with symbiosis. So is it any Spider-Friend? Any Spider-Friend that has the Spider-Friend affiliation and the name Spider-Man? It's not... Oh, man, does it say? Oh, as a reminder, he can only turn into this version. Okay, so it has to be Black Suit Spider-Man. All right. That is... Dude, that's a flavor home run. So, but I mean, is this any good? So functionally, does this change the scope of the game? Like if I start the game with Angel as my main character and I have these bind characters, once the main characters come out, if Angel dies, does this guy count as my main character? I think from previous examples when Professor X had the ability to graduate supporting characters into main characters, Professor X was still your MC. So if Professor X died, it didn't matter that you had graduated Wolverine MC on board. You still lost the game. I assume that's going to be true here. I kind of wish they explicitly said that these main characters, while they are main characters and can do all the main character stuff, they don't count as your main character for the game. And because these are one-off, so one of my criticisms of the Wrecking Crew was these cards are all one-offs. I'm not going to be able to consistently get this stuff. And that's true, but dude, when you get it, whoa, it's fire when the Wrecking Crew fires off. And I think that's going to be similar with these guys. There are cards that let you, Wakanda lets you search your deck. Obviously not available in the second chance format, but in a broader card pool, Wakanda would let you search your deck for the Venom symbiote or the Carnage symbiote, depending upon which one you wanted. And if you want to get really tricksy with it, you could run Ghost Spider as your main character and then give this one-of-a-kind dude the dimensional wristwatch power. That plus Wakanda, now you've got your two one-of-a-kinds and you're guaranteeing your second main character, which, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be good, but it seems fun, right? Yeah, it is kind of funny. Is he a 4/7? Oh, and the level 1 he turns into isn't even a 4/7. Okay, so, man, I don't even know how to deal with that. So is having another main character on your board going to be good? Well, probably. I think a huge percentage of what makes Thing and She-Thing powerful supporting characters is they have such a big HP pool. And even if nothing else about the main character is that awesome, you've got a dude who's got essentially a supporting character that has 6 health and the potential to get even bigger, or 5 health, or depending upon what the main character's health value is. This does feel like Danny and Ben sat down and were like, let's be flavor overload and let the chips fall where they may, and we'll figure it out later. So I get that they said this bit here, or wait, where is it? The bit where it says that you get to have side piles. Yeah, this bit here that says where you have side piles even though you're not supposed to have side piles. I think that's 100% to make this guy work. So they wrote the exception to make this unhealthy relationship where you get to pull the symbiote off and this guy forces a side pile. I feel like that's got to be it. Man. Okay. Let's move down to some of these supporting characters. At some point, I got to go finish making dinner for the family. Here we go. Yeah, another one-of-a-kind. Why is there so much one-of-a-kind stuff in here? So I haven't read anything this card does, but just as a general thing, when I build my decks, I'm not a huge fan of one-of-a-kind cards. I like to be able to draw consistency. So, chat, I'm not sure. My guess is that when you get the new main character out, the main character you started the game with is the one that dictates whether or not you win or lose. So if I bind Peter Parker into this dude and the Angel that I started the game with dies, I still lose the game. That's the assumption I'm going with. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, if these supporting characters let you get another main character out and that main character counts for like wound counts at the end of a tournament, or at end of a tournament round, or hey, the main character I started the game with died, and so you functionally end up with a main character that has like 12, 15 HP. That seems absurd. I mean, who knows? They've thrown some curveballs at me before in this game. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff here. Okay, so next up, Ricochet. This guy is a one-of-a-kind, 2-cost, 2/5/1, aka Spider-Man. When you discard this card to power up Spider-Man, he has range this turn. I mean, that feels good, but there are so many Spider-Mans in the game already, and you're giving us another card that, in addition to being power-up synergy, is just... Oh, gosh. If there was ever a main character that didn't need help, it's Spider-Man, and they're giving us more Spider-Man help. I get that it's appropriate because it's a Spider-Man arc, but, like... Okay. Like, the reason you're never going to recruit this guy now, right? I mean, maybe you do, but a 2/5/1 with range on 2, that doesn't feel super great. You're running this guy because you want to use the identity crisis and be able to unexpectedly give your main character Spider-Man range for a turn. Is that worth running that card for? I'm not sure. I don't know. Dusk. Oh man, this is going to be a whole set of these, isn't it? Okay, so one of a kind, aka Spider-Man. This guy has stealth. So unlike Ricochet, he actually has a valuable... He's a 3 attack with stealth on turn 2. I mean, 3 attack isn't amazing, but you know what you throw this in your deck for? Those turn 1 Senator Kellys. You play this cat into that Kelly, and Dusk comes along and prevents protecting the Senator. So that's not unreasonable. Identity Crisis, when you discard this card to power up Spider-Man, he has stealth this turn. Now that is pure fire. Giving him range for a turn, that's situationally very good. I'm not, the ability to attack and not get struck back is certainly good, but it's not always going to be great. Giving your main character, I mean, it doesn't have to be your main character. It could be somebody else, but I'm assuming, I'm kind of looking at these to put it into old versus parlance. I'm looking at these cards like legacy support, where it's supposed to kind of focus on one character. I'm feeling like these are sort of designed with the idea to be played with a Spider-Man main character, but again, they don't have to be. That said, giving your main character or a particular supporting character that you've decided to stealth out of nowhere to be able to just get to the back, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I will say the one-of-a-kind character to get at Kelly, that's not the one that I would want to use. I would want to use the 1-drop from... the Maximum Carnage expansion plus a red. That I think is a much more reliable Kelly counter. Moving on to Hornet. Are these all 2-drops? Yeah, they're all 2-drops. Okay. Hornet, he's going to have weird stats. 1/6 for 2. Kind of weird stats. Flight, and when you discard this card to power up Spider-Man, he has flight this turn. So they just give... So this guy has range and he gives range. This guy has stealth and he gives stealth. Okay. Not the most... so this guy can give Spider-Man bulletproof. For the... So I guess you would keep this guy in your hand, and when somebody declares a ranged attack into your Spider-Man, you throw this to... Essentially, it acts like in good hands. This isn't in good hands, but it's specific to just Spider-Man in ranged attacks. That's super, super narrow. I mean, all these are really narrow. Out of the 4, I think the stealth one is probably the one that I think has the most like combo potential, the most actual like legs in a game. Yeah, there's going to be some turns where you get to use this bulletproof dude to just act like an in good hands, but if that's the case, just play in good hands, man. You can run 4 of them. This cycle seems really weird to me. I'm not sure I really know the place that they want you to play these cards. Obviously some kind of Spider-Man deck. Yeah, good point. Justin in the chat says you can attack and then use this bulletproof guy to avoid the crackback. Sure. So functionally the same as Ricochet, but like narrow in a different way. Not super. So I will say the one thing that I like about these cards, the fact that they're all one of a kind, means they aren't taking up many slots in this box, which means this box could have a lot of other like fun, cool stuff going on in it. And we don't have 4 copies of. Oh man, what is the deck where you play these guys? I guess it's some kind of Spider-Man MC. This seems real kitchen table to me. All 4 of these guys seem like, if you are a Spider-Man fan and you're a fan of Spider-Man in this particular era, like, this is a flavor home run for you. But as a general, I mean, I am a Spider-Man fan of this particular era, and I'm thoroughly, well, let's look at this Carnage boss. So I do like that we're seeing more bosses. Again, I like that it's not taking up slots in our crossover set. I would like the crossover set to have more things that are helping out weak teams. And honestly, this feels like it should have been in the Maximum Carnage box, but it's in the Spider-Verse box, so whatever. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have clicked that. I'm going to have to lean in on this. So, like all boss characters, this is designed to be played like 2 people against 1 who has the boss. You build your Carnage deck, you sit down. This thing essentially acts as like a main character. I mean, it doesn't actually interplay. So again, I have to comment that these boss battle cards could have just been like a PDF or a website or whatever. That said, I actually really like these cards. I really like the physical card, the boss battles that we've had that are this way, because the original boss battle was just a set of rules printed in the rule book for the Leviathan Mom. I played that. It was okay. We did it a few times. I mean, I was really excited when it came out, but it ended up being like, whatever. The next cycle of boss cards that we got where we have this physical card, I actually really liked. So I realize there's a little bit of hypocrisy there in that I kind of crap on the story mode cards and then say that I like these boss mode cards, but hey, I'm full of contradictions. So is this boss going to be good? I was born of chaos. Pay a blue, stun 2 random enemy characters. Well, you don't pay. Again, for all the boss modes, when you play a location of the appropriate color, you get this effect when the location enters your resource row. So it's much better than paying for it because you're putting the location down to use for something else, and you get this bonus effect, which is supposed to balance it out between the multiple players that are attacking you as the boss. Stunning 2 random characters. Doesn't say supporting. You could get free stuns on MCs with this. That's very strong. Doing all things a Carnage can do. Doing all the things a Carnage can. This is a little bit hard to read. Draw a card, then another for every 5+1 counters on Carnage. Yeah, that feels also strong, although a little bit fragile because you got to stack the counters in order to really get value out of that. So early game, playing yellows is not going to feel super great. Well, I mean, it's a free card. A free card is a free card. Alive and Well, put 3+1 counters on Carnage, or 5 if he has none. Ooh, so playing a green, turn 1, play 1. Yeah, I would argue that Legion should not have been a PDF because the Legion cards actually interplay. Welcome to Carnage World. This turn, a character with Symbiosis on your side would gain +1 counters. It gains double that many instead, and Clintar lets you choose any of these. As far as a boss goes, this feels like a strong boss. This looks like a boss that I'm interested in playing. I'm sure my kid is going to be like, give me Carnage, and you have to fight me with 2 different Spider-Man decks. Sure. In general, I like the idea of putting boss mode and story mode stuff into deck slots. Yes, I understand this being in the Spider-Verse box means I'm not getting another card that I can put in my deck. I do get that, and for the people who have no interest in this kitchen table nonsense, these boss modes and story modes, I get how this kind of might feel like something is sort of being taken from you in that there aren't playables that you can put in your tournament level deck. I like this better than devoting a whole expansion to this kind of stuff at the end of the year like they did with Crossover last year. So to run back through these real quick, I think I give this story a thumbs up. I like that they're trying to do stuff a little bit more advanced with story mode. Yeah, I think within the context of story mode, I give this a thumbs up, although I'm a little bit lukewarm on how story mode has been handled thus far. Cletus, I guess I give it a thumbs up. I mean, it's so crazy. It's hard to really understand, which I kind of like. I like that they're doing weird, unique stuff. And I guess this whole cycle of bindable cards, I think I'm going to give the idea of the mechanic a thumbs up. I do have some questions about how it's going to ultimately end up working. I don't think it's going to be tournament level. I mean, maybe I'm not seeing it here immediately in my knee-jerk reaction, but I think this is a solidly kitchen table mechanic that's going to be mostly fun and extremely inconsistent. Probably not something you're going to take to the tournament table. But again, if all the necessary tools, like if you can play Spider-Gwen and you can run Wakanda, you can guarantee you're going to get one of these binds off. And if that's the case, then maybe it's good. I mean, a supporting character that has 6 health feels fantastic. This whole cycle of Ricochet, Dusk, Hornet, and Prodigy, I think I gotta give this cycle a thumbs down for the moment. The idea that I'm gonna put these 4 supporting characters into my deck and just run them as power-ups. I mean, I guess I've already run Call, and if I ignore the extra ability, these are just more power-ups for Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is a character that more than any other character in the game does not need additional power-ups. So yeah, I'm not sure what these cards are supposed to actually do or what deck they're for. So I think I give a thumbs down to this whole like weird Spider-Man power-up cycle. Even though I like a lot of the art, I like the idea of trying to bring in more. I mean, the Spiderverse is all these different people who have held the mantle of Spider-Man. Like, I'm kind of bending over backwards to try to be charitable with it. But overall, I think these cards are this cycle's a bit of a mess. Maybe there's a Spider-Man that this stuff fits in really well. Like, there's a Spider-Man that is going to really care about what's in the KO pile. Earl points out that pro registration Spider-Man, these all count as Spider-Mans, but I would rather run Kamala Khan. Now, if I can't run Ms. Marvel on 2, if I can't run the monsters Ms. Marvel, then running the Spider-Man cards that have the really high stat blocks becomes a little bit less relevant. So this gives you, in a pro registration Spider-Man deck where you can't run the Champions affiliated Ms. Marvel supporting character, these 4 guys give you cards that will trigger your XP condition and also be slightly better than just a +1 counter. That is some thin value. I'll play with them. I'm not totally dunking on these cards. Sometimes when you take a swing, it's a miss. And I don't think this was a bad swing, but I don't think any of these 4 cards, they just don't have me excited. Like, I got to be honest. I kind of feel like even a thumbs medium is almost misrepresenting my level of excitement about these 4 cards. Carnage Boss, thumbs up. I want to play that. That seems cool. Seems very cool. Oh, and we have a release date of the 24th. So that more or less sums up the late at night here card previews. I gotta go deal with dinner for the kids. Appreciate everybody watching. This was a hard one to dive into, guys. I don't know that this analysis is going to ultimately end up sticking. I'm going to have to think about some of these, particularly this whole bind mechanic. That's going to take me some time to wrap my head around.